Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you might happen to be. Welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat, the show in
I
which we talk about a recent piece of entertainment, nerdy entertainment, and we go in depth about things that we liked about it, things that we didn't like about it, what we thought worked, what we thought didn't work, themes, tone, messages, and so on, which means, as all of the words around me here indicate, we're going to be spoiling it. What we're going to be spoiling tonight is the recent Netflix animated series Arcane, based on the Riot game League of Legends. So if you have not
I wouldn't
seen,
say it's that recent, but still.
December,
Yeah.
so, month and a half. Now, and it's November, so as soon as it dropped, it was all there, so it wasn't like it stretched out over weeks. But okay, we'll go. Moderately recent, not too long ago, in the recent past, and all of those other ways of saying, yeah, okay, recent. Um, so if you haven't seen it, you should probably, and you don't like spoilers, you should probably not be watching this right now. You should wait until after you have seen it and then come back and watch our opinions on it. If you have seen it or you don't care about spoilers, then please do hang around. We'd love to have you in the chat telling us what you think about it, telling us what you think about what we think about it, and basically just expressing your opinion. Now, who will you be expressing your opinions to? I am Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, and a bunch of other places doing a bunch of other things. Joining me tonight is, I've used the cap joke way too many times, so we'll say, with the very stylish sweater, Byron, introduce yourself.
Hello, guys. Byron, aka Byron D0 on multiple facets of the internet. Contributing writer, social media consultant, and content creator for the site. Glad to be here to talk about this fantastic series. I also do a little bit of art on the side. You should check out my Instagram. It's BD0Art. That's BDZEROART. Almost lost it for a second there.
I'm sure you
uh,
would have remembered it.
yeah, eventually. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this interesting concept, interesting way that Netflix released it.
Yep.
It's gonna be a great time.
All right, so folks, already in the chats is, let's say, Davi Craft. Yes, you were in fact the first. Maria Gelma, oi, back at you. And again, warning, as you know, we said, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. We got anybody else in any of the other chats yet? Doesn't look like it. All right. So what we do, as always, when we start this show with talking about what this is and where it came from. It is a 9-episode animated series on Netflix that is based on the lore of the game League of Legends from Riot. And it basically tells the story of the origin of a number of characters. And I don't play the games. I don't know the lore deeply enough to know whether or not this is straight from the lore. In that so many of these characters were all connected in their development into the people and things they become, or whether that was sort of squeezed in together, for this particular series. But the main characters are Vi and ultimately Jinx. Although, and again, lore fans would probably know this. I didn't know this if it was out there, but when she was a little girl, Jinx her name was Powder. So it was Vi and Powder. It was on your screen right there. And unfortunately, this is the scene where they realize that their parents have just been killed. So, and that's in the first 3 minutes of the first episode, 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. So, in case you're not getting the sense, it's not a super happy fun time. There are some bits of humor in it, but boy, it's not funny. It is a dark, violent, very serious animated show. I almost called it an anime. Um, and
Definitely anime inspired.
Hmm?
Definitely anime inspired.
Definitely anime inspired. So this was created. Let me find where you can see better images of. There we go. This is Vi and Powder and their two friends, Milo and I always get it backwards. It's either it's Clygor. I always call it Crygol, but it's Clygor. Big guy in the goggles.
At least you bother to remember their names.
I, I have IMDb up here because there's no way I'd remember them. Other than the main characters that I know because I've taken pictures of them as cosplayers or as cosplay characters. So the studio that did this is a French studio, of all things, called Fortiche Productions. And when I first looked them up on IMDb, their credits weren't very deep until I realized that they apparently had a different name from when they were founded until a few years ago, and it was Passion Paris. Passion Paris did Gumball, Star versus the Force of Evil,
Ooh.
Lego City Adventures, an animated Doctor Who series Doctor Who: The Runaway. And they were hired all the way back in like 2015 to do a lot of the, they call them video clips in what I've read. So I'm assuming it means like trailers and cinematics for League of Legends. So that's why Riot ultimately picked them to do this animated series, because they had been doing it and doing a good enough job that Riot really liked what they were doing. But while they were Passion Play, I forgot all about these even existed. Back in 2017 on Disney XD were the animated series Ant-Man and Rocket and Groot. And Passion Play did those as well. So, yeah.
Cool.
So their animation styles are all over the place. Two more interesting things about this. So Fortiche, when they got this deal, it was 6 years ago. It's taken them 6 years to make this one season.
Here's hoping it doesn't take another 6 to make season 2.
There will be a season 2, and in fact, one of the heads of League of Legends said on Twitter that he can guarantee it will not be another 6 years, but it definitely will not be in 2022. So I'm guessing we're looking at 2024 at the earliest. But to do this French company founded 2 satellite studios and ultimately wound up hiring or employing 500 people to finish this work.
Wow.
There is no official word, but a number of insider sources have said that the budget of this series was somewhere between 60 and 80 million euros, or pushing $100 million. And it looks it. Again, just
sound
look
investment.
At this.
That was a sound investment.
I think, well, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I guess it depends on what they were looking to get out of it. I doubt that they're going to get that many new League of Legends players. But what they definitely could get is, actually, I'm not really sure what they would get out of it. Netflix is certainly getting a lot out of it. It was, the top thing on Netflix for weeks.
Yeah, it was.
So, that's basically, the story of how it got created, and a little bit about what's going to happen with it in the future. There will be a season 2. They leave it on what a freaking cliffhanger. A real cliffhanger. So anyway, so what we do now is we start talking about the things that we liked about it. We're going to do that before we get into things that we dislike. I'm going to guess that Byron's probably going to be pretty much with me that second part is going to be really short.
Mm-hmm.
So let's focus on the things we did like. Byron, what did you like about this? What worked for you? What do you think they tried for and succeeded at?
I mean, let's get the basic ones out of the way. The visuals, the 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 voice acting, the the characters, the writing, all that stuff. Like if we get like if you want to break down some of the parts that really stood out to me, Haley Steinfeld's acting, like
Yep. And just she played Vi.
yes, like the girl is just she's definitely a seasoned screen actor, but the fact that she is so dedicated to the craft of voice acting is really something.
Yep. Yeah. I agree 100%. Um, and I think you can say that about pretty much all of them, all
Oh,
of the voice
absolutely.
actors.
Oh yeah, like I don't know all the all the characters that were voiced. Was D Bradley was D Baker Bradley in this
He was not, oddly enough.
really? Because like the guy who becomes Jinx's father figure sounded eerily similar to this to Crosshair from the Bad Batch.
I can see that. It was J.B. Blanc who was actually in the last thing we talked about. He was in Dragon's Blood, Dota Dragon's Blood 2 as, of all things, Terrorblade.
Oh, I guess that makes sense actually.
Yeah. Um, but other people, so like Fred Tatasciore had a whole bunch of roles.
When is
Um,
he not though?
right. But Milo was Yuri Lowenthal, which makes sense.
Yeah,
Milo being the one with the pointed face and the really big eyebrows off here to the right of the screen.
and the
Uh,
spiky hair.
hmm? And the spiky hair. Yeah.
Yes,
Let's see. Who else?
looked like he could have been Junkrat's interdimensional counterpart.
I can't, I'm not that big on recognizing voice actors if we haven't seen them recently. So I couldn't say for sure. I know some of the people who are not traditionally considered voice actors. Jinx is played by Ella Purnell. Um,
That name sounds familiar.
it was in the recent Army of the Dead as Batista's daughter.
Okay,
But has been in a bunch of things. She's sort of like one of the hot young actors out there right now. Grayson, the I guess technically head of the enforcers, the local police
mm-hmm.
force, is
Yep.
Shora Agdashlu from The Expanse. Secretary General Ashravala, and so freaking good in this. Um, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm talking over you. It's your turn.
Oh no, it's yeah. Like I said, the writing was so solid. Like everything, like I mean, it's definitely not perfect. There, like those are some parts I'll get into later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I did like those moments that pull at the heart, like the first half of like the first half before the big time skip,
Yep.
where Powder was just like she wanted to be of use to her sister, and then she screws it all up, and by just like nope, I don't want to hear it. I'm done, and it just I'm just like wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
There is so little Western animation that would allow characters to have that kind of a breakup and allow the person who made a mistake be the driving force for that mistake. They would somehow come around to, oh, somebody else did it, or it was something. No, Powder screwed up,
Yep.
desperately trying to help, but screwed up badly. And Vi watched her second dad die. Vi watched, her brothers essentially die, all because of Powder's screw up. Of course she's going to react like that. And they didn't pull that punch. And
Mm.
like,
Yeah, that was definitely impressive. Like the show doesn't play it safe, and I'm so here for it. Like I kind of wish one of the boys had lived, but
true.
yeah,
Um,
it
but
it
what they
wasn't
sort
conducive to
of
the
did
story.
with that afterwards with Jinx was genius.
Oh yes,
Flash Cord. Flash Cord photo in the Facebook, no, in the Twitch chats. Welcome to the chat. Um, and a couple of chats already. Fortiche is so top tier. They did the music video for Pop Stars. Really? Wow. All right. I can see that. Yep. I can see that style. Absolutely.
that does explain a lot.
Yep.
That was another thing that stuck out to me was the animation. Like
Oh, so amazing.
it fe- it felt like this hybrid of hand of like of like hand drawn and CGI. Like
Well, because that's exactly what it was. And they've
yes,
said that. Within that first 3 minutes, I paused it and went to Google and said, was Arcane motion capture? And so then I started reading some of the articles that said no, it was a combination of 3D to get some of the smoother effects and 2D animation over that.
mm,
Um, and but the reason I thought it was motion capture is I didn't believe that they could do facial expressions like that just in 2D without actually having a face that they had put that
right.
over. Nope, not
That
a
just
bit of it.
shows you that shows you how much like I love studios that still respect the craft of animation like that.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you know how I feel, you know how much of a snob I am when it comes to media, and it's just like I live for people who still respect the craft. Like, I'm. This is how you use the medium. Not doing another pseudo sitcom that could have just easily been done with live action actors, but you were too lazy to do it. Chicago Party Mom,
Flash Cord, the
or Bob's
animation.
Burgers,
Say what?
Bob's Burgers.
Oh no, I'm not gonna. Bob's Burgers is not a an animation focused show. It's a joke focused show, and it's a good one.
Fair enough.
The animation is so detailed, it's wild. Flashcord says everyone is so expressive down to little eye movements and stuff. Exactly, just what we were saying. And episode 3 fucked me up for real. Um,
Exquisite though.
and on the YouTubes, Aaron, welcome to the show. Hi back at you. Again, we're spoiling Arcane. If you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't be watching yet. Wait until you do see it, but do go see it. Absolutely. Anyway, sorry. Byron, keep going. I interrupted you with some chats there.
No worries. I mean, I could just pick apart every like the things that I really enjoyed about this show. I mean, the music. I love Imagine, especially the theme song, because I love me some Imagine Dragons.
I've gotten
You know,
tired of them, but I like this one.
yeah. I mean, I know that makes me a basic bitch, but I love Imagine Dragons, and this intro was pretty solid,
Yeah.
especially when it was used as an insert song.
With them as the band. That
Yes,
was actually Imagine Dragons, like a magic
a
cyber
proxy
steampunk version of, but yeah, as the band that was playing it. That was pretty funny.
that was. I liked the amount of representation that was in the story as well.
I agree. I'm trying to think if there was a other than Mel and ultimately her mom and other people. Well, Sky was black. Echo, of course, is black.
Yes, Echo. Yes,
Yeah, all right, okay. It seemed a little, no, like Marcus is kind of the token Asian, and Caitlin looks like the character might be part Asian. Um, and then I thought, well, and they're kind of doing token blacks, but no, now I think about it, you know. And Grayson, despite the name, is clearly Indian, you know,
yeah,
um, with Agdashlu's accent, and then of course was drawn that way. So
definitely. This is a complete aside, but Grayson's character looks like what I imagine Bruno Mars will look like at 50.
I'm not going to argue with you. That's a good one. That's a good one.
All right, I don't want to steal all the goodies, so I'll end it here.
All right. So same thing. You know, I'm going to get onto the animation a little bit later. But so let's just do. You know, I agree. The voice acting is amazing. In something like, again, just looking at last week's Dota Dragon's Blood 2, you got amazing voice acting talent, mostly professional voice actors with an occasional, more live action actor thrown in. And they all did a fantastic job, or I thought they did. I know you had a little of a hard time with Anson Mount as Caden, but let's take him aside. I think everybody did a great job. This is another level.
Oh, absolutely.
They are so everybody. From the kids, they got to play the younger versions of Vi and Jinx or Powder, and the younger versions of other characters. Like, there's a young Jason, a young Caitlyn, and young Victor. They're all amazing. And then their adult versions are all absolutely amazing. The writing, the characters, there are, I think, two primary characters who could be considered morally uncorrupted. And that would be probably Caitlyn and probably Echo. And everybody else is as complex as you can possibly get in their moralities.
I wouldn't say that Heimdallr was not corrupt.
That's true. He was just an idiot that obviously never even saw how much corruption was in the council while he was running it. That's true. All right, I'll give you 3, Heimerdinger. But even the ones that are straight up villains are, at times, believably sympathetic characters.
Absolutely.
Silco is horrible. He's one of the worst villains out there. But you never doubt that he really ultimately does care for Jinx as a daughter.
Absolutely. He wasn't trying to use her for some dark ulterior motive. He wasn't trying to groom her, thank God.
Yep.
And I think a lot of it had to do with his relationship to their dad, whose name I'm blanking out on.
Vander, the
yes,
real dad? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the adopted dad.
Yes. He never stopped caring about Vander, even though they were mortal enemies at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at Marcus. Marcus is, ultimately becomes the sheriff, the head of the enforcers. Marcus is absolutely a completely corrupt cop. Just no other way to describe him. But he's the corrupt cop like you would find in The Wire, not a corrupt cop like you would find in I don't know what, a Stallone movie or something. I mean, it's it's absolutely believable why he allowed himself to become corrupt. The flashcord, the only time you ever see Silco flinch in any kind of interaction is when someone is talking about Jinx. Georgia Dow actually did a really great breakdown of the Jinx-Silco relationship from a therapist's perspective. I'm assuming that's a YouTube channel or a podcast or something. Let me know what that is. Not familiar with the name.
I'd love to check it out too.
So the writing and the plotting, there are twists and turns that you don't see coming but make sense. It's not a let's just do something. Flashcord, Georgia Dow has a YouTube channel. Okay. It's not just that say, hey, let's do something to subvert the expectations or drive the plot without it making sense. Everything makes sense. It's just really well plotted. The dialogue, when the dialogue becomes a little cliche, and it happens, there's a couple of, it's like, oh, there's that line.
Absolutely.
The voice actors are good enough that they sell it. And so it's like, okay, well, yeah, that line could have been better, as opposed to, oh my God, that's so cliche. It's so amazingly well written. And that's not talking about, if you've ever seen this show, I'm a sucker for world building. The world building had already happened. So, all the kudos to the.
But yet you refuse to start One Piece.
I refuse to start One Piece because I don't want to watch 1,000 episodes. I hear the world building is really amazing, and that's great. But I am not going to start a 1,000 episode series. Had I started it back when it was even 100, I might, but no. So the world building is amazing, but I'm not going to give that too much credit to this anime because that had already happened. And this, the artwork for what it looks like was already out there, and this Fortiche Productions had already done an awful lot of work in portraying that with their in-game cinematics and so on. But it is beautiful. Anthony, Flashcord had mentioned...
I'd say exquisite.
Exquisite is a good word, too. Anthony had said the animation is so detailed it's wild. I didn't realize. I'm sitting there watching the scene where Heimerdinger goes into the lanes, goes into Zon, the other side of the river, and when he's sitting there reflecting on the fact that the mother of the little girl wouldn't let her take that top that he had just quickly put together for her. It held that scene long enough that I realized that there were a bunch of faces painted in the wall behind him. Like, I don't know, sort of goofy anime monster faces, with big bug eyes and so on. And I'm like, oh my God. I wanted to actually go back and start watching through it again to see just how much of that detail is in there. But it's just incredibly detailed. The animation is fluid in a way that can only be done with the help of CG, and beautifully, almost, again, looking at something like this, watercolor level painted artwork done by the 2D people. It's just shocking how good this is. I'm positive that the power effects here in this shot, when Vi finally gets her power gloves, and then Jace, whatever character he ultimately is going to be, has this big power hammer. The power effects have to be CG. And probably the basic core motion of the characters might even be CG, but it's such gorgeous 2D animation overall that it's a beauty it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Especially when they do those those still frame shots.
Yep. Yeah, they do slow-mo, they do, freeze frame, they do all sorts of very interesting stuff. The direction of this, and again, that's one of the things that within the first 3 minutes, that's one of the reasons why I thought it might have been motion captured, because it looks like a director directing real actors with, a storyboarded, the choices of angles of shots and composition and framing, there's no two traditional anime characters standing face to face in a forest or something. None of that. Even when there's a two-person dialogue scene, the camera is moving about, and the angles and the positions change based on point of view, based on who's speaking. It's a cinematic, directorial, brilliant piece of work in an animated series. It's just, again, the music, I wanted to know, because I couldn't find it. I actually went through the credits at the very last episode, and it mentions all the Imagine Dragons stuff, but it doesn't mention, I don't think, the two hip hop drops that are in it. And they were awesome.
I gotta revisit those tracks now.
And the way they did that too was just, the it's almost like a music video with a different kind of animation. Anyway, it's wonderful. The characters are amazing. The story will, tug at your heart and then rip it out, stomp it on the ground, maybe put it back in, or at least get it beating again. Yeah, and we could go, both of us could go on just ad infinitum about how
Yep.
amazing it is. So let's get to what I'm guessing is going to be the fairly shorter part of this. Byron, what didn't you like? What do you think didn't work?
Uh, the pacing wasn't always the strongest. There were points in this series where I'm just like, I felt that like there was like like the scenes with Caitlyn and Vi, like I'm glad that we're seeing them foster a relationship of some sort, but it's still like I feel like it ran a little too long, and on top of that, it was extremely ambiguous. Like the ambiguity, like we still aren't 100% certain what kind of relationship they have yet, and it almost feels like queer baiting, and I was so scared that I was so scared. I was really scared that they were going to go into queer erasure territory with Jinx and Caitlyn, where she's just like, where she like when she puts the plate on the table with the covering on it. I'm just like, no, 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 no. Please tell me you didn't do this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, okay, okay, we'll do with it. We'll see where this goes. Yeah, the pacing and the lack of definition in the relationship were like two of my biggest complaints. And this is kind of a personal gripe, but not for nothing. But I know people try to convince me otherwise of this, but I still feel like Jinx is way too heavily inspired by Harley Quinn.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. I don't know that I would say that that's as much a problem for me as it is for you. But there are moments in this particular animated series, even where it's like, okay, dial back the Harley a little. Now I'll have to give them credit for the nature of the way they present her insanity is much better than anything that's been done in any DC, including Joker and so on. So I can see it, but I can see your point about her. Yeah, she does skew a little Harley.
Yeah, I will say that I meant to bring this up in my positives, but like the progression of like this inevitable antagonist relationship with them
Yep.
felt really organic. But uh yeah, those are like my biggest complaints though. It what Like I said, the writing wasn't perfect, but there's no such thing as a perfect story.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with you about the pacing to a certain extent, and I agree with you where that problem is, and that is in the stories of Caitlyn and Vi. Because I think ultimately Caitlyn is nothing except the girlfriend who becomes the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Yes, she
Like
does
she's a character in the games, but I don't see her. I don't see her like fighting like on the front lines with Vi.
Right. Now, maybe that is what happens. Their relationship develops to the point where that becomes a thing in season 2, but that's definitely not the case here in season 1. Yes, she's helpful. She has her moments where she's helpful, but really what she is, let's give Vi a girlfriend or potential girlfriend that we hint at a lot, that can be put in danger. And that kind of sucked. It was like, okay, the character is interesting enough. Make her somebody who's badass enough to do something. But anyway, Um, my other problem, as I mentioned, as far as the writing goes, is occasionally the dialogue does just rely too much on
Yeah.
cliche or trope phrases. Um, it often doesn't. There are times when a character will say something that I went, oh, okay, that's where a worse anime or series would drop in this line, and they didn't do it. But sometimes they would put in that this line. And again, it's to the credit of the voice actors that it was just, oh, okay, cliche, as opposed to, um, referencing that scene in the last episode, where they were basically trying to pull off a Hannibal. Everybody at a dinner table, all tied up to chairs, except Jinx, who was, playing everybody like a puppet. She wheels in. She mentions, your. She calls her girlfriend, but your friend, and wheels in, the tray with the silver dome on it. And you're thinking it's like, okay, they're not really gonna pull what's in the box thing here, are they? And then they didn't, and my relief was this long because I then went, was Jinx ever in earshot when Vi called Caitlyn Cupcake? Why would there be a cupcake there? Why would she know to put a cupcake there? And why would she put the frickin' arcane, stabilized hex gem on it? Yeah, she's insane. I get it. It was such an obvious setup to make something seem insanely dramatic and then just come back to sort of dramatic with a reference to something that I don't think would have made sense. And again, that's pretty nitpicky. I get it. It's like it didn't stop that scene from still being incredibly tense, but it seemed really sort of pandering, almost to the point of insulting.
Yeah.
And Jinx is crazy. We get that. That didn't need to happen. But anyway, and really, that's kind of it. Oh no, I do have one other complaint, and it's somebody call these people by their names before the third friggin' episode they're in. I had no idea. I still am not entirely sure that Silco's one-armed assistant is, I think it's Sevica, because of the fact of it is a person of color voicing her, and they're high enough up on the list of IMDb that they're an important character.
I was gonna say, like, you don't like. I pet like I had to look at her name several times. I'm just like looking at her outfit. I'm just like, this is my new waifu. I'm like, I don't know her name, but it's like, I see hotness, I see beefiness, and I see her six pack bulging out of that top. So I'm like, I like her. I want snoo snoo.
So is it in fact Sevica? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There's so many characters in this, which is great, but there are so many characters that I literally have no idea who they are until probably the second or third episode in which they appear, in which somebody says their name bluntly and clearly enough that I go, oh, that's that person. Okay. And again, that's actually probably fairly realistic in the way people talk and so on.
Yeah.
But there is conventions about letting your audience in on things that you probably should pay attention to. But that's really,
there are ways to do that that can make it feel organic, I think.
Right. Or you can even play with it like they did in Hawkeye, where Yelena keeps calling Kate Bishop every time. And finally, Kate says, look, you're using my full name just so you're basically telling me you know everything about me, right? And Yelena goes, yep. It's like, all right, good. I get it. Yeah, but that's it. I got nothing else to complain about on this thing.
Right.
It's absolutely fantastic. The only potential complaint after this is, I know they've said they won't take 6 years, but let's try to keep it to 2 or 3, please.
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd love to have a 2023 premiere if possible.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. December 2023 would be 2 years. I think that is as optimistic as you could possibly get. I'm thinking it's probably going to be
Yeah.
late 2024. But all right, themes, tones, messages. This had a lot of stuff to say.
Yeah, definitely did. It's about yeah. There's a lot going on about classism, definitely
Oh yeah,
between like the undercity and the people up top. Vi and Powder, Vi and Powder, eventually Jinx. The whole idea of going in tradition with the introduction of Hex Tech. Um, Forging your own path, which I cannot remember his name. The kid, like the one who creates Hex Tech. I forgot his name.
Jace.
Jace, yes,
Well, Jace and
Jace.
Victor.
Yeah, Jace and yes, oh yes, Jace and Victor both. They come from different stances on it. Jace comes from a more level-headed stance of forging your own path, whereas Victor comes from like the stance of what are you willing to do to get what you want.
Yep.
And like this is just such a meaty piece of media that we can pick this apart all day, but I'll try not to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's absolutely true. It is very much a dangers of capitalism, classism kind of show. There's no question about that. It's a show about the dangers of power and all aspects of that, political
The dangers of the
power.
love of power.
Well, yeah, because I don't know that there's any character in here that doesn't love power, or at least see its value. Um, and some of them love it more than others. It is, it is unfortunately for me because I don't like these kind of stories, but it is a cautionary tale about the unfettered exploration of knowledge. Um, and there's a lot of them out there. And frankly, our own real world can certainly put up plenty of examples of that. The atomic bomb, etc.
Yeah,
But and it's also a story about family, but about all aspects of family, the good and the bad.
absolutely.
And there's so much about in this, that is the good and the bad, in everything. It is at its
Like
heart.
Silco,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, like Silco's a perfect example of that. With him like wanting to have his cake and eat it too, with like killing off Vander and then wanting to keep that piece of him through Jinx.
Yeah, yeah. I would say Silco is the bad and the slightly less bad, but yeah, but all of the characters have various degrees of that, and it is one of the most morally complex Western series, to say nothing of animated series.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it has the moral complexity of the best moments of The Walking Dead, um,
Or Breaking Bad.
or Breaking Bad. That's actually an excellent example. That's a really good one. Um, you could take Victor and swap him out with Walter White easily.
Absolutely.
Somebody with a serious physical disease, trying his best to do what's best for both the world and himself, and things get tough. Um,
And he loses a piece of himself trying to achieve those goals.
yep. Uh, so I think Byron is right. There are so many different levels of meaning that are layered on top of each other here. that we could just explore that all night. And frankly, I don't want to. So we're going to wrap that up right here, folks. Thank you all for being in the chat, talking with us about this. Flash Court is great to chat with you. Hope everything is doing fine there.
Wait, Rodney. Let's give it a rating. We got to give it a rating.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You're right. So Byron, would you recommend it? And on a scale of 1 to 10, where does it sit?
I'd give it an 8 out of 10, simply because those 1 or 2 things, they're pretty big deals for me. They're not deal breakers, but I can't give it a perfect score. I can't even give it a near perfect score because that would not be I feel like there's more that this studio, there's more that this creative team can do with this world and with this story.
Well, that's true. All right, you know what? I'll say, and by the way, I'm assuming you recommend it. I recommend it highly. I think if you haven't seen it, absolutely go watch it right now. So I was going to put it at a 9 out of 10, but I think you're right. It's not a complete story yet. And certainly with that cliffhanger, it's absolutely not a complete story yet. So that being said, what we do get to see, I would say, is in the level of those things that I have rated on my anime list as a 9. No question. But because it's not a completed story yet, I'll back down and say it's an 8 out of 10 as well. What you get to see, if you haven't seen it and you do go watch this, for me is a 9 out of 10. It is right up there. So, yeah, go watch it. We both recommend it highly. And now we are officially wrapping things up. Thank you, Byron, for that. I completely forgot about it. So everybody in the chat, Flashcord, again, thanks. I hope everything's going great up there in the grand state of. And everybody else in the chats, thanks for all of your input. We will see you at an upcoming show. Byron and I are going to, at some point, decide what we're going to be doing for Anime Octane on Monday. Because we haven't figured that one out.
We got to figure something.
We'll figure something out. And then, of course, Tuesday was Nerd Week Live. And once again, I forgot about it, but I have it right here. Next Thursday. Of course. Book of Boba Fett. So.
It's ending. Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was ending next week.
Yeah, it wraps up next week. So, Book of Boba Fett, February 10th. Watch the show and come join us as we talk about it. So with that, Byron, give us a good night.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Great back and forth, especially on Twitch. Great to see more interaction there. Again, check out some of my art on Instagram, or if you have the time, you can check out my webtoon series, Sisterhoods. It is a good time. It's inspired by Little Red Riding Hood. Check it out. It's 2 words, Sisterhoods. Have a good night, y'all.
Check it out. And that's all for me as well. We'll see you at an upcoming show. Everybody stay safe out there. Particularly up here in New England, tomorrow morning during the commute, from what I understand, it's going to be either, freezing rain, sleet, snow. It's going to be a bad commute. Not the whole day, but so be careful tomorrow. We'll see you at a later show.